WTWO's Beyond the Stands podcast is brought to you by Crow Equipment, Andrews Heating and Air Conditioning, Snap Home Media LLC, Sycamore Insurance Associates. Here's your host, Rick Semmler.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Beyond the Stands. I'm really excited about this one. Not often I get a former professional coach to join me, let alone someone that's from Terre Haute, and that's what I have with this show. I'm talking about Cam Cameron, former Terre Haute South standout, went to IU to play football and basketball. He was a head coach in the NFL and at the college level, also an offensive coordinator. So just a tremendous career he has. He is back in town because Terre Haute South will be retiring his football jersey on Friday night when the Braves take on Northview. Cam, I know, follows my podcast. I appreciate that. He lives down in North Carolina, but he is always checking in with me, so I appreciate him doing that. So he was kind enough to come into studio and join me while he's in town. Cam, good to see you, bud.
Thanks, Rick. Glad to be here, and I follow you on social media down in North Carolina, and so I haven't been back recently, but I feel like I'm pretty up to date. So you're doing a great job, and it's fun to listen to everything you have to say. You kind of know what's going on around here.
Well, that means a lot to me. You do check in with me and always praise that you have for the area, and I appreciate you following. Before we get into everything, I find it amazing. You haven't lived here in 30-plus years, but you still follow everything in this area, and it matters to you. Why is that?
Well, I mean, as you know, I moved here in 7th grade and from North Carolina, and it changed my life. There's a group of guys, I don't think I've ever told you this story, but I'll share it with you tonight. There was a group of guys that knocked on my door the first summer I was here, and they said, hey, we heard you're new in town, and my mom was dating Coach Harp, Tom Harp, my stepdad, but they weren't married at the time, so it was just me, my mom, my sister, and I got invited to go to a camp up in Rockville, Indiana. It happened to be the FCA camp, and I didn't know what FCA stood for. Long story short, I went to the Fellowship of Christian Athletes camp in Rockville, and their National Resource Center was there, and that just started a change in my life. And it started here in Terre Haute, and I think I said this when I talked to the South football team today. No guy in the history of the game of football has been set up for success better than me. And it all started coming to Terre Haute. My mom winds up marrying the head football coach at Indiana State, and then I get a chance to play for Mark Miller at Honey Creek. I get to play for Bob Clements at Terre Haute South, and then obviously on to IU and so forth. But I just, how could you not stay up to date with everybody in Terre Haute? It's changed my life, and it's a great place to grow up.
Well, you're very honest but modest at the same time. You had a lot of help, but let's be honest, tremendously talented guy. You were an All-American quarterback at Terre Haute South in the late 70s, 76 through 79. Basketball-wise, you played in 3 Final Fours, which just doesn't happen in Terre Haute. How special was your athletic career at Terre Haute South?
Well, we just had and I go back to Honey Creek, and I remember playing Sarah Scott and Woodrow Wilson, which we always struggle with Woodrow Wilson. And we play Otter Creek with Brian Dorsett, and the junior high kind of set the table, and we had great teachers, had great teammates, and then you go to South, and then that just becomes the next step. And I felt like I came into South pretty darn prepared. Football-wise, I had met Roger Staubach when I was in 7th grade at the Naval Academy.
Pretty cool.
My dad had been there and fell in love with kind of the quarterback thing. And then a lot of people don't know this, but when Larry came to town, he had a red shirt for a year. Larry and I would play horse and just shoot around every day in the arena at my dad's office, which was in the arena. And then I got to play basketball every Monday through Thursday, May, June, July, and then football would start. So I got to play 3 months, Monday through Thursday, with Indiana State in junior high and high school.
I had no idea.
And not many people around here know that, because they only had 9 players usually. I was always the 10th guy. And that was in 8th grade, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. I got a chance to play with Indiana State for a week. So that, I'm telling you, Kirk Thomas was in the room right around the corner working on his
Gymnastics.
Baumgartner was in the wrestling room.
Wow.
And Larry Bird and Cam Cameron's running around. and so, like I said, no one – I don't know how you could get any luckier than I did to just be prepared to go to South and with great friends and play for great coaches. And then think about this. I'm a sophomore. Mike Joyner's a senior. Then I become a junior, and then come Kevin Thompson and Doug Meehan behind us. And it was me and Richard Wilson, and then there was a whole series of other guys. My junior year at South in football, Schulte closes. We get 5 starters on offense, I think, from Schulte. So, yeah, I mean, you're giving me, I know, but I know nobody trusts me when I tell you. It was been more fortunate, and I just had to kind of do my part, and boy, have I had a ball, and still am to this day. Thrilled to be here in town, by the way. Just thrilled to be.
Well, I got to ask you. You shared so many stories with me. I never knew you played with Larry Bird. What was that like playing horse with him? And did you ever beat him?
Well, I can answer it truthfully because if you go check, he'll admit that I did beat him. I'm not going to say, yeah, I beat him all the time. Obviously, you don't beat Larry Bird. And Larry's probably going to tell you that he let me. But I remember I was a little bashful early. I was on one court, and he would come in from his summer job, and he would go down to the far end. And pretty soon, he said, hey, you little redheaded whatever. He goes, get on down there and let me beat you up in some horse. I mean, you know how Larry was.
Oh, yeah.
And this was his red shirt year. He had a red shirt. And so, sure enough, and then I think over time, I won him over, and I would get there early. I had a ton of trick shots I practiced, and every now and then either he let me win or I beat him, so you're going to have to ask him.
I love it. I love it. Let's go back to the Terre Haute South days. I guess first with football. You were talking about it. Got your first start in 1976, and then it just took off. How special were your playing days playing football for Terre Haute South?
Well, to me, it springboarded my game, and here's why. Again, now I've got a football coach. I'm living with a football coach, and so we talked. My dad and I talked a lot of football. I had a projector at home, so I studied a lot of football. But Mark Miller and the Honey Creek coaches really did a solid job. I mean, Howard Mills and we had a group of Gordy Bryan and Bucky Whitlock and Greg Sauceman, and we just had a nucleus of guys that really love sports. So we kind of came out of there with a love for sports, and then we come to South, and then you go to play for Bob Clements, who was a phenomenal football coach. As you know, he's had an undefeated team. Was it 72? They
yep.
An undefeated.
Phil's named after him.
Yep. And so he had a great plan, though he didn't share the plan with me, but I was the JV starting quarterback. So I got to play a lot. I only played 1 year quarterback at Honey Creek. I was the tailback my 7th and 8th grade year, and then wanted to be a quarterback my 9th grade year. So I'd only played 1 year prior to coming to South quarterback. And so I got to play JV quarterback, and then I was the outside linebacker on the varsity. So I got to play 2 games a week. And then we started out slow, and I was kind of getting the hang of the quarterback thing. The gist of the story is he announces me, I'm going to be the starter, and he had to sit down a senior who was a great guy, Shirley Ward, and we were playing. It used to be called Brazil. It's not Brazil anymore, but Northview, and it was Wednesday or Thursday. He calls me over and he says, "Hey," he goes, I was thinking last night. He goes, "I don't think you'd call anything I wouldn't call." He goes, "How would you like to call your own plays?" And I'm thinking, wait a minute, I've been on JV and we were undefeated and had a really good team. Now I'm on varsity, and now he wants me to call my own plays, and I went, sure. And he goes, and if you have any problems, he goes, just look over and I'll have a call for you. I'll either send one in or I'll signal you a call. I said, great. So he let me call my own plays, and it went good. We won, and then we won a couple other games, and then it just kind of. I mean, you talk about a way to captivate a quarterback. You coached him well. And he knew I had resources at home, and he knew I was going to study. And then he lets you call your own plays, and he let me do that the rest of my career.
Wow.
And So once again, off I go. Whether I became I wanted to be an NFL quarterback. Whether that happened or not, obviously it didn't. But boy, did it prepare me to be a coordinator, a position coach, and then eventually a head coach. I think that was one of the key things in my entire career was what Bob Clements allowed me to do.
And we'll get to the head coaching and offensive coordinator here in a bit. You also played basketball, as we mentioned, at Terre Haute South, 3 straight Final Fours. You were really good at basketball because you played at IU under Bob Knight as well. But talk about your basketball playing days at Terre Haute South and just the run you guys had. I mean, you see the banners hanging up in South Gym. You guys could play with anybody back in the late 70s.
Well, we were good. I don't know that when Richard Wilson and I and we had a whole we were all coming out of junior high, because back in those days you went to junior high in 9th grade. So we'd come to South in 10th grade, and here we are with Mike Joyner, and who I was kind of in awe of. And then there was a nice little group of guys ahead of me: Will Uzzle, Tom Ennis, Tony Watson. Those were kind of the signature guys, and then there were all the sophomores. Well, I was the sixth man, and so I didn't even start as a sophomore, but I relished in the opportunity to come off that bench and give us a spark, and then that's another thing that I think helped me. Was I ready to be a starter as a sophomore? I think Richard was. Because he's such a great athlete and a really good player. I don't know that I was ready to, and so I got a year to kind of develop. And then my junior year, we all know Mike leaves and goes to Evansville, tragically dies in that airplane crash. Actually, we were all pallbearers, and that was something we kind of honored him that next year. But then you think about that. So now Richard and I and some other guys that were backups were in that junior year, and then you got a strong senior class of the guys I mentioned earlier, and then comes Doug Mahurin and Kevin Thompson, 6'9" and 6'8", 6. I mean, so it's like we come in, got a nice group, then all of a sudden everybody's maturing, then here come guys behind us. So Richard and I. Our class gets caught right in the middle of town on both sides. And then Gordon Neff, old Coach Neff, we never played not one possession of man-to-man, which sounds a little surprising.
Back then, yeah.
And people had a tough time playing us man-to-man because Richard was so good, and obviously. But we're 6'9", 6'8". Brian Thiemann was 6'7". Jim Bogle was 6'5". Right, Hal? I mean, we were
a lot of size back then.
The junior year, every guy could dunk on the team. Our junior year, and that was like that's back in the 70s, and we just started to develop that chemistry. And then so you think about it, we beat North every year. We won the sectional every year, won the regional, and I'm gonna tell you one thing. That daggone semi-state was.
Where was that at?
It was in Roberts Arena.
Evansville.
Called Roberts.
Yep, Evansville.
Yeah, in Evansville, and it was packed. And then we were down like 13 points my junior year to Washington, and won by 2 in regulation, for Pete's sake.
Wow.
And so long story longer, we just kept getting better. We stayed pretty healthy. But we had size, and we could play. The point I was going to make about Gordon, we played a 2-3. Everybody used to watch Syracuse and Boeheim, that 2-3 matchup zone. I think old Gordon Neff might have invented that, because that's what we had played. Richard and I were to the top, and then we're sitting there with 6-7 plus behind us, so we could just gamble, and people had a tough time because we would man up guys within the zone, and most people weren't playing a matchup zone back then. And we were able to do it because we had a lot of talent. And I give Gordon Neff a ton of credit. He knew what he had, and we had a lot of leadership, and he let us lead and let us play, and we played pretty free. And as we know in basketball, that goes a long way.
Oh yeah. Got to thank our sponsors of the show: Crow Equipment Incorporated, Snap Home Media LLC, Sycamore Insurance Associates, and Andrews Heating and Air Conditioning, your 2018 American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning Building a Higher Standard Award winner. For quality and reliability you can depend on, call Andrews Heating and Air Conditioning, 765-832-9401. So you had an incredible career.
Hey, can I add one
thing? Yeah. What do you got, bud?
So let's go back to Honey Creek.
Okay. What we got?
And Howard, I'm looking over here at Howard Mills, who's sitting next to me. So our first 7th grade coach was Barksdale, right? And I'm telling you, we had a set of drills that we did as 7th, 8th, and 9th graders before we ever did any 5-on-5 anything. We probably did an hour's worth of bench jumps, rights and lefts, free throws. It was, and someone charted every single thing you did, and it was on a timer. We did this every single day.
In middle school.
In middle school. And then, the 9th grade coach was Don, Don McDonald, yeah. So, who, do you guys, is everybody around here remember Coach McDonald?
I do not.
All right.
Do not.
He was John Wooden's captain at Indiana State when they won the NAIA National Championship.
Wow.
And he's coaching at Honey Creek. So we're sitting there. Now, I get back to what I'm saying. I come into Honey Creek, and I got Coach Barksdale, and then there's Don McDonald, and they let me practice. I would practice with the 7th grade team, and then I'd practice with the 8th grade team later. And then when I got in 8th grade, I'd practice with the 8th grade team first, and then the 9th grade team after. And so I had just a tremendous opportunity to be around great coaches.
Wow.
And develop.
Wow. I've known you for a while. I've learned stuff in the first 15 minutes here I didn't know before. So, as I mentioned, incredible career at Terre Haute South. So you had the privilege to go to IU, to play quarterback at IU, and you played basketball at IU. You don't see that often. What, I guess, led to the decision to play both sports at IU?
Well, I mean, first is as I looked at football and basketball. I mean, basketball was my first love, and then becoming a quarterback was second. And then that kind of, I thought, you know what? I think I could be an NFL quarterback a lot easier. Not easier, but my chances would be better, and I think I would enjoy it because I knew if I didn't make it in basketball, I didn't want to coach basketball. I was addicted to the complexity of football. And again, my dad being a football coach. So I thought, you know what? I want to be an NFL football player. And then if not, I would hope to be a coach, a high school coach or college coach. And then luckily then became an NFL coach. So I go there just to play football, but I always still had that love for basketball. And then, of course, Lee Corso was my head coach.
Yep.
We go to a bowl game my first year. We won the first bowl game in the history of Indiana football. It was unbelievable. And Coach Corso was a blast to play for. And everything everybody saw on game day is exactly how he coached. It was. We went to the Holiday Bowl, and he calls this big team meeting, and we're in San Diego. And San Diego's a pretty cool town to hang out when you're young. And he says, all right, guys, we're going to go over the rules for a while we're here. We're going to be here 10 days, and then we're playing Brigham Young. He goes, we got one rule and one rule only. And we're all going, we're kind of looking at him like, and he goes, the only rule I've got is you make sure if I see you at breakfast in the morning that you've got on a different shirt than the one you had on the night before. He goes, other than that, have fun, guys, and we're going to have some fun out here. And I went, so the whole team, we stayed out all the time, went out, had a ball. BYU's going 2-a-days, in pads, curfew, and we win the game. Go figure.
Coach Corso knew what he was doing.
Yeah. So to answer your question, though, I injured my knee my sophomore year and wound up redshirting. So I missed that year, and then going into my junior year, I watched Indiana basketball, and I thought, you know what? I wonder if Coach Knight, if there's any possibility I could come out for the team. So I went to Coach Corso first. I said, how would you feel if I went to Coach Knight and asked if I could come out after our season, after a bowl game or whatever, for the basketball team? And he goes, I think that's a great idea. He goes, he knew I wanted to be a coach. Mm-hmm. And he says, you want to be a coach, and no matter what sport you play, coach, who better to learn from than Bob Knight? That's Lee Corso said that. So I go out, Coach Knight. He says, let me think about it. And then I get a call back the next day, and I come over, and he says, Marianne calls, says, Coach Knight needs to see you. And I come in, and he says, well, I thought about it, and we're just not going to do that. He goes, I don't really see any value, and we don't need anybody right now, and so I've thought about it. We don't need a guy who's playing two sports here. So I said, okay, well, thank you for the consideration, blah, 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 blah. So then I go home and I'm thinking, you know, if you don't, the worst you can say is no again.
Mm-hmm.
So I called Mary Ann. I said, is Coach around? And I said, so I go back over again, and I go in his office. I said, Coach, I said, I thought about everything you said, and I said, truth be told, I said, I've always loved basketball. I love football as well, and no one even needs to know I'm on the team. I said, I would enjoy the opportunity to run scout team, help the team, and if no one knows I'm on the team, I'm fine with that. He says, well, I'll think about it. So another day goes by. I get a call from Mary Ann. He says, the coach would like to see you. We go back over, and he says, well, I thought about it, and we're just not going to do that. He goes, I thought about it, and it's just not going to work for us, and da-da-da-da-da. So I go back home again. I'm thinking about it. Well, they were on the road. I think it was maybe Northwestern or somewhere in Chicago, and they got back late Sunday. They'd gotten beat, and I don't know if you remember, there was a guy named Rick Rory who I'd played against in high school, from I think Muncie Central, and they got back late because they'd gotten beat, went right down into and had one of those midnight practices. And did the roll the ball out and go dive in there. Well, the word was that Rick Rory had broken his arm.
During that drill?
During that drill.
Okay.
So I heard that, and I sat in my dorm room. This is unreal. I didn't go to class on that Monday. I sat in my dorm room by the phone, and at 2:15 the phone rang, and I pick it up. I go, hello, and the guy on the other end says, is Cam Cameron there? I said, this is him. He goes, Cam, this is Jim Cruz.
Assistant.
And I said, hey, Coach. He goes, well, Coach Knight wanted me to give you a call. And he said he wanted to know if you still had any interest in coming out for the basketball team. And I said, I would love to. He goes, I said, we'll be here by 3 o'clock, and we got practice today. And he hung up. So I grabbed my stuff, and I head over to Assembly Hall. I have to get my shoes. I'm hustling to get down there. And I'm 45 minutes. I'm on the basketball floor. Now, I didn't even look at the schedule at that point. You go back and look. We played Kentucky on national TV. It was either that Thursday night. I'm figuring I'm just going to practice. No one's going to know I'm on the team. So I'm practicing, and I mean, I've got football legs. I'm worn out, and I'm trying to hide it. And so we get through the Monday practice, then we get through the Tuesday practice, and I'm holding my own on rebounding, defense, and all that stuff. I could still shoot free throws and stuff, but I still had kind of football legs. And then travel day is Wednesday, and after practice, I got a travel bag in my locker.
You're going to play.
I played 10 minutes Thursday night, and now we got blown out. But that was classic Coach Knight. He was so upset the way we were playing. He marched behind. This is in the first half. Walks by everybody and says, "Let's go, and puts me in. I'd been on the team for 4 days. And I didn't even know I was going to be on making the trip. So a long answer, but that's how it all came about. That's how it started, and then I just tried to, do what I do: grab loose balls, dive for balls, play defense, be coachable, and boy, did I learn a lot. And playing with Randy Whitman and Ted Kitchell. Ted Kitchell, one of the finest, and Randy too, but Ted Kitchell, one of the finest leaders and captains in any sport, any team I was ever on or coached. He was that, and then I think that the following year, if he doesn't blow a disc in his back, we probably win the national championship. And then Alford, I was with Steve Alford my senior year, my 5th year, and then Steve was a heck of a player for us, and that was the year we made it to the Final 8. But so that's how that all played out, and I don't know that I've ever told that story.
No. Again,
you haven't heard it.
No, you've shared a lot of stories with me, and I've learned a lot of stories tonight. So yeah. I'm enjoying this. We continue with this. So I got to ask, not about you, but we talked about this earlier today. IU football is just on a roll. So while we're talking IU, I got to ask you, what do you think of Curt Cignetti and the job he's doing? And just overall, what do you think of his personality? I got to ask you.
Well, first, I worked with a guy, Hal Hunter. I've known Hal forever. Actually, our dads coached together at Duke, and Then Hal was my offensive coordinator at IU my last couple of years. And he always told me about this Cignetti guy. Yeah, I worked over in Pennsylvania, in a smaller school, but he's always been he was at West Virginia. And he's telling me about this Cignetti guy. He's one of the best coaches I've ever coached with. But then it just was never on my radar. I think we maybe met, shook hands at one point in time. But Hal Hunter, who I respect his opinion as much as anybody, still to this day, on stone cold ball coaches. He said that Curt Cignetti is one of the finest coaches that he's ever worked with, and that always was in the back of my mind. And then I was talking to Scott Dolson, the AD at Indiana, and of course he was a manager for us in basketball.
Okay.
So we have a long, great friendship there, and I knew a little bit about who he was considering, and it just all of a sudden Hal Hunter, what he told me about him. But did I really know? No. And I watched the game the other night against Illinois, and here's what I said to myself. I said, every single football coach that took the job at Indiana, that's what they envisioned building. That stadium with that energy, with that fan support, that kind of execution, that kind of athleticism, that teamwork, the physicality, their smart football team they play, great situational awareness, all the things. They are great at everything that matters to winning. Taking care of the football, field position, hidden yardage, red zone, third down, fourth. I mean, just it is super impressive. And I think we all know there's no one personality that wins in coaching. It's your ability to, and the media, as we know, now I'll consider myself in the media.
Okay.
You see about, no matter how much you're around a football coach, how much you think you know him, unless you're in all those staff meetings, all those home visits that they make, you're on all those phone calls that they make to players, to their team, and to recruits. In the locker room, but after wins and losses, if you're not in there for all those, you don't really know the coach. Now, you get more access these days because of social iPhones and all that. But I think his personality is exactly, he reminds me, somebody said to me they reminds me of Nick Saban. Well, I competed against Nick, and when he was at Michigan State, I followed him at Miami as the head coach, and then I followed him again at LSU. And I'm sure he learned a lot from him, and this is as big a compliment as I can give any football coach. He reminds me as a teacher and a communicator to players, and an ability to put together a comprehensive plan to beat the opponent. He's Bob Knight in a lot of ways. I listen to him talk. And the one thing that you love about guys like Curt or Coach Knight is there's no gray area. So, and especially when you're a young male, you just need clarity sometimes. Mm-hmm. And if you don't like it, some of the greatest things we learn, things initially we don't like. And he's not afraid to say it like it is. Yeah. And guys respond. Alpha football players, and I've seen especially at the NFL level, but now at the college level, because they're kind of like semi-pros now. Alpha football players love clarity. Marty Schottenheimer, who I work for, calls it bright lines. He goes, my players, everything is going to have a bright line. There's going to be no gray area. And that's why Marty Schottenheimer is successful. Bill Belichick, that's why he's successful. And I put Cignetti up there, having studied him now quite a bit and having heard of him over a long period of time, as good as any football coach in America.
That's high praise. That's high praise. Now, we talked so much about your playing career. You've had an incredible coaching career, one of the few people in Terre Haute to be able to do this. You were a head coach at IU at the college level and a head coach in the NFL at the pro level for the Dolphins, also offensive coordinator at the college level at LSU, and in the pros for the Ravens and Chargers. I guess, first of all, I got to ask, did you enjoy being one more than the other, an offensive coordinator or head coach, more one than the other?
Well, always, because my dad was a head football coach, and so I knew kind of the way he wanted. He started in high school, and then worked his way up and became a head coach at Cornell and Duke, and then Indiana State was his last job. So I knew I wanted to entertain the thought of being a head coach, but I loved the way the offensive coordinator role started to evolve. Because a lot of head coaches were calling it, you know. You can think back to all the days of the old head coach. He's listening to his staff, and he pulls the guy over with a face mask and then shoves him back on the field. And well, those days, then guys started coordinating and being able to have more flexibility beyond the head coach. So that was kind of intriguing to me. And having called my own plays at Terre Haute South, it just seemed kind of natural to me. And I didn't get to do it in college. But I was still learning, and so that I think that, in hindsight, the best job for me and the most fun job is being an NFL offensive coordinator. It is the challenge is ridiculous. The expectations are off the charts, as we know, but the quarterback room, to sit in a room for umpteen hours a week, a day, with Phillip Rivers, Drew Brees, Jim Harbaugh, Gus Frerotte, Joe Flacco, Mark Bulger. I mean, I can go on and on and on. It's like you come bebopping into work every day because you get a chance to communicate with world-class quarterbacks and then get to watch them go out and execute it. So I really think that's but let me back up, and I want to give, and I'll get a little emotional on this one because when I knew I wanted to get into coaching, and coach, I was sending out resumes, I felt like I needed to be a high school coach first. I need to earn my way. I need to earn a college job by starting high school. So my dad did. So you don't know this. Do you know what my first job was? I interviewed?
I don't.
Coach Clements retired.
Terre Haute South.
And I interviewed. I called E.V. Halt and put in my application for the Terre Haute South job, and they interview me.
Okay.
And I'm looking out there. I know everybody on the panel, and our superintendent was Herman Baldwin, and he was another mentor of mine. These are phenomenal human beings. They're the OGs of Vigo County educational system, and so now they're come to a decision. So I get a phone call in Bloomington. And because I'm in graduate school over there, basketball season's over. It's now the spring, and I've sent out a bunch of resumes, or got some resumes ready. But I'm applying for this job, and the EV calls me in his office, and he sits me down, and he and I were very close. I mean, like super close. As a high school senior, I didn't know you could be that close to a principal and get that much mentorship from your principal. And he was that guy for me. So now, this is 5 years later, and he goes, Cam, we met as a board, and I just want you to know we all came to a conclusion. The easy thing would be for us to hire you for this job. He goes, and we have a lot of confidence in your ability to do the job. He said, but here's the other thing we concluded. He goes, we see something far greater than being a high school coach at this time. And so we're not going to hire you.
Wow.
And I wasn't devastated, but it opened my mind. It never entered my mind to think that I could go coach in college and not have paid my dues as a high school coach. But he gave me the green light to now pursue a college job. And then I wind up Coach Knight, back to Coach Knight. He recommends me to Bo Schembechler as a graduate assistant.
Okay.
And
starts the journey.
And then off I went as a GA for a year, and then he hired me my second year in a role, and then I was a receiver coach the third, and I wound up at Michigan for 10 years. And you probably asked me this next question. So I leave Michigan after 10 years to go to the Washington Redskins because I got to know Norv Turner.
Okay.
Back in the days before you had cell phones and digital stuff, you had to actually get on an airplane and go learn football.
Okay.
Because people wouldn't send you their tape. So you'd have to go watch the Rams practice, or you'd have to go down to the Dallas Cowboys, or go down to Tennessee or LSU. So I'm traveling. I'm traveling all over the country to go watch practices and watch people's tape at their facilities. And I got to know Norv Turner. Well, he gets the Redskins job after he had won a couple Super Bowls with the Cowboys, and he wants me to be his wide receiver coach.
Okay.
Now, I just coached Desmond Howard the year before and when he won the Heisman Trophy, and the Redskins had drafted him. So they probably felt like that would help their investment a little bit too, because I'd coached him. But the funny thing is, two things are kind of funny about it. When I said to my wife, Missy, I said, what do you think of going to the NFL and going to, well, she said, where? I said, well, we'll go to Washington. She goes, if you want to do it, let's do it. So we get on the plane and we're landing in Reagan Field in D.C. and she goes, what are we landing here for? And we were pregnant with our first child, Tommy, and she signed off to go to the NFL and thought we were going to Seattle, Washington. And we were going to the Washington Redskins. So that tells you. So I knew I had a good wife before that.
She's just going.
But the first NFL game that I went to, I coached in.
That is incredible.
I had never been to an NFL game. I grew up in North Carolina originally, no team.
No team.
I come to Indiana, no team until '83, and by then I was
on the move.
I was up in Michigan.
Uh-huh.
So I think the Colts came here in like '83, something like that.
84
so that
was their first.
their first season.
Yeah.
I was at Michigan in 1984, and then at Michigan, when you're at Michigan and the Detroit Lions weren't any good back then, you thought you had the way better job than an NFL job, and so I had never been to an NFL game until I coached one. So you never. So once again, you can't
never
make that up.
No. Now I got to ask you a couple more questions here. You coached Antoine Randall at the college level, Desmond Howard, you said, Drew Brees, Joe Flacco, putting you on the spot. But is there a player that you would like, I would coach this guy any day because not only his athletic ability, but he was so smart? Is there just one guy that you were like, oh my goodness, I would coach this guy anytime?
Well, Drew's going to be a Hall of Famer this year.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I mean, LaDainian Tomlin's already a Hall of Famer. So I've been so fortunate. But the greatest athlete, mental, physical, agility, toughness, competitiveness, I've had a bunch that are great at all of them. But if you made me pick one, it'd be Antoine Randall. That guy never missed a practice, never missed a game, never lost a sprint in practice. He refused. He winds up, he plays football, becomes a Big Ten MVP. Mm-hmm. Should have won the Heisman Trophy. If we win one more game, we're going to a bowl game. I think he wins. And we won three. We missed three games like on the last 30 seconds.
Yep.
Or he probably wins the Heisman Trophy. He does get a Super Bowl ring with the Steelers.
Yep.
But he played football. He played a year of basketball for Coach Knight, and then also played center field baseball. He played three sports at IU.
Yeah.
And so, do you know what he's doing now?
He's an assistant coach in the NFL.
So he was with the Lions, the receiver coach, the last 3 years.
Okay.
And now he's the assistant head coach and receiver coach for the Chicago Bears.
Okay, so I saw him on the sidelines a couple weeks ago.
And I think he'll be a great offensive coordinator if he chooses, but he's definitely someone who can be a head football coach in the NFL. He's got the magic, and he's super bright.
That's awesome. Speaking of the magic, before I let you go, you've lived kids' dreams here. Like I said, college, professional level. You didn't play it, but you coached it at some of the biggest venues and best things. But you're also that guy from Terre Haute that graduated from Terre Haute. How much, no matter whether you live in North Carolina, any of this stuff, you were born in North Carolina, you live there now, but will Terre Haute always be special and in your heart?
Well, my wife's from Bloomington. We both went to IU. And people say, well, where are you from? And we both will say the same time, Indiana. You know, we're from Indiana. I'm from Terre Haute, you know. And most people, it's funny. Oh, I've been in Terre Haute. I lived in Terre Haute one year. Yeah, go right through Terre Haute on the way to St. Louis. Or go right through Terre Haute on the way to Columbus, Ohio. I mean, you know, people know about Terre Haute, but they don't. They know where it is, and they know Indiana State's here. And then I get a chance to tell them about, again, the teachers, the teammates, the community. I mean, you're still here, right?
You're correct. 22 years and counting.
Yes, indeed. And it's just having, and you know, getting a chance to to coach Tony McGee at Michigan, get a chance to coach Danny Etling at LSU, have 2 kids from here. We got a chance to have some real amazing moments together. Have friends like Howard Mills, and I can go through a long list of guys that are here. Gordy Bryant's still here in town, and I said Brian Dorsett as well. No, we're from Indiana. We're Hoosiers. We're from I'm from Terre Haute. My wife's from Bloomington, and we now reside in North Carolina. So come down and see us. We'd love to have you.
Well, I appreciate you doing this. Like I said, we usually talk through text because you're so busy. But to get you in here and share the story, I mean, we could go for hours. Poor Howard Mills over here sitting, trying to get him home. But we'll have to have you in town next time, share more stories. But congratulations on getting your jersey retired. I know you're going to say it's everybody else who did it, but you certainly earned that recognition. So congratulations on getting your jersey retired at Terre Haute South.
Well, thank you, and I'll be. It'll be emotional for me tomorrow night, and but most importantly, we need to find a way to get a win.
There you go.
And then that makes the jersey even better. And but just I guess last 2 words to everybody that winds up listening to this and here in Terre Haute from me and my family. Thank you.
That's Cam Cameron, Terre Haute South graduate, very special guy, and as you can hear, still holds a special place in his heart is Terre Haute, Indiana. So, again, I want to thank the sponsors of the show, Crow Equipment Incorporated, Snap Home Media, LLC, Sycamore Insurance Associates, Andrews Heating and Air Conditioning. Remember, you can follow Beyond the Stands on Spotify, CastBox, Pocket Cast, iHeartRadio, and it's always on WTWO website, mywabashvalley.com. That does it for this edition of Beyond the Stands.
WTWO's Beyond the Stands podcast is brought to you by Crow Equipment, Andrews Heating and Air Conditioning, Snap Home Media LLC, Sycamore Insurance Associates. Catch this episode again and more of Rick's interviews online at mywabashvalley.com.